Hey guys. This is part 4 of What If Naruto Have the Power to Heal and Destroy. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 17, Natural Enemies. He had left his room as little as possible during the last week. One could count how many times he had actually gotten up from his bed with one hand and still have enough fingers to pick up a coin. Still, his apartment had been far from silent for the most part. The rooms of the small home had been filled with noise from the knocks on his door, several times per day. His perception wasn't completely honed, but the genin could easily guess the orchestrators of those knocks. First it had been Sakura, and she would return later that same day, but received no answer either time. The next day it was Iruka-sensei. He had stayed the longest by far. His knocks resonated through the apartment for hours. Sakura came back the day after. She remained an hour and even called out to him, but still he gave her no acknowledgement. The fourth day came with a surprise. Early in the morning, the Jinchuriki was awoken by knocks from the last person he expected to visit him. Sasuke came to his door at least 5 times that day, yet his attempts were as successful as the others. He received many visits during the following days, mostly from Sakura and Iruka. Though some might have been from Shikamaru or Shino, the genin wasn't sure. Yet, despite the eagerness from his friends to talk to him, Naruto had no desire of answering their calls. The blonde has suddenly found himself in a new world, a world where the Sandaime Hokage existed no more, and the boy had no idea how to move forward in it. So he remained silent, locked inside the apartment given to him by the old geezer. Even the fox had refrained from speaking and simply kept to himself during his host's mourning. This sorrow that you feel shows just how human you really are. I guess all those villagers were wrong. After that, Kyuubi too went silent. Naruto knew he should not dwell on his sadness. He had helped Konoha fight back the invasion and protected his friends. He knew that the Sandaime would have been proud of him, but still, he could not get rid of the feelings that were consuming him. Yet among the sorrow brought forth by the passing of the old geezer, another feeling was emerging: anger. The Jinchuriki's sadness had been accompanied by a growing rage towards himself. On that rainy day he had shown weakness. He had revealed just how fragile he still is when he crumbled in front of Sakura. The mere memory of his failure infuriated him. He was supposed to have changed, he was supposed to have become stronger, and he was supposed to be above the pain already. Yet, he still sought comfort in his teammate, he still required a shoulder to cry on, he still needed someone to tell him that everything will be okay. His own existence disgusted him, so the Jinchuriki hid, secluded himself inside his apartment, and let the world go on by itself. Suddenly, an excessively loud knock snapped the blonde out of his thoughts. "Naruto, open up!" Kiba's voice sounded throughout the apartment as the knocks sped up. The Jinchuriki was surprised. He had never expected Kiba of all people to come looking for him, yet the blonde had little time to analyze the situation when another voice joined in. "Yeah! Come on, open the door!" Chuji's call was accompanied with a much louder knock due to the boy's physical strength. "Do you have any idea how much you're worrying everyone by isolating yourself in here?" Naruto heard Shikamaru's voice saying. "Don't be so troublesome and just open up." "Naruto-kun, I do not know what you are trying to accomplish here, but I promised Hinata-chan that I would not leave until I personally made sure that you are okay." Shino's borderline cynical voice added in. A small chuckle was suddenly heard. "Come on, Naruto-kun." The blonde's eyes immediately widened. That voice sounded so similar to. "Your friends have come here because they are worried about you," Sarutobi-sama said. It had taken some time for the Jinchuriki to truly recognize the owner of the voice. By now, Naruto was beyond surprise and awe. He could have never imagined that such a large party would arrive at his doorstep for his sake. It took all of his self-control not to go running to the door. The knocks continued to bang on the door. "Come on, Naruto, Ino won't get off my case if I can at least get you to open this door." Shikamaru's voice commented. "We're here because Asuma-sensei decided to take all of the guys out for food. We can't get going unless you come alone, and I am already really hungry." Chuji's voice whined. Naruto could practically see 4 pairs of eyes on the other side of the door rolling at the brown-haired boy's comment. "We were going to get Sasuke-kun, but it seems he heard Kiba-kun coming and hid from us," Shino calmly informed. "Hey! Stop saying it was my fault." Kiba defended himself, immediately being backed up by Akamaru's bark. "Anyways, we miss Sasuke, so like hell we're going to let you off the hook, Naruto," the Inuzuka proclaimed. "Come on, Naruto, open the door, come on." Ulterior motives aside, The Jinchuriki was tremendously moved the simple fact that they were there for him, so it took all of his concentration to block their voices out. Naruto-kun. Shino's voice manages to sneak in. I do not know if you have already become aware that all of this idle chatter is nothing but a distraction. I could have opened this door any time I wanted. At this, the blonde's eyes widened. We just needed to distract you until all measures were made to ensure that you will not run away. Shikamaru explained. Immediately, Naruto stood from his bed just to find himself extremely weakened. Looking down, the blonde realized that his body was already covered by the Abdurrahim's bugs. Still, the genin forced his body to stand up, remaining vertical for merely a couple of seconds before his legs gave up on him and his body fell on the floor with a thud. Okay, Shino, open it now. The Jinchuriki never stood a chance. The moment after he heard his apartment's door swung open, he saw the Nara's shadow swiftly traveling towards him and connecting with his, immobilizing the genin. 5 minutes later, Naruto was being dragged across town by the group of shinobi. A soft knock graced the room. Come in. The boy seating in his bed by the window answered. Opening the door carefully, Hinata walked into the hospital room. How are you feeling today, Niji-san? The girl asked as she placed the food she had brought with her on the table. A small smile appeared on Niji's face. I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. The boy responded as his eyes momentarily glanced at the second bed in the room before returning to his cousin. But Hinata-sama, you don't have to trouble yourself with coming to visit me so often. The blue-haired girl continued setting up the food as she smiled cheerfully. It is not any trouble, Niji-san. She replied happily. In truth, despite the recent tragic events that have occurred in Konoha, Hinata was really happy. On that fateful day, the tension caused by the duel between Naruto and Niji caused her to pass out. It was not until she regained consciousness, after the whole ordeal was over, that Kiba had told her what had happened. Her teammate affirmed that, through his chakra-enhanced senses, he had heard Naruto informing Niji that he was fighting him for her. That alone was enough to give her an unwavering reason to smile. But then Kiba continued his retelling. According to the Inuzuka boy, while he was taking her unconscious form back to her house, under Kurenai-sensei's orders, Niji had suddenly appeared to save them from the Otonins that were chasing them, and Kiba was willing to bet that Naruto had something to do with her cousin's amazing turnaround. Now, her relationship with Niji had never been better. She would to visit him at the hospital almost every day after her father insisted that his nephew was to remain there for observation. It had been a little awkward at first, and then Niji would not stop apologizing, but now it was easy to simply sit by his hospital bed and just talk for hours. They would discuss topics ranging from trainings to missions to the reconstruction efforts. They even talk about village gossip, and she was surprised to find out how well informed her cousin was. Gai-sensei talks loudly. A blushing Niji had said to defend himself. The only regrettable part of the Hyuga era's days were the talks she had heard around the village about Naruto. It simply infuriated her, which was not an easy prowess, just how the villagers simple-mindedly view him. To aggravate things, her teammates had told her how Naruto had secluded himself in his apartment, and would not answer anyone's calls, not even Irika-sensei's or Sakura's. Fortunately, Shino had assured her that him and the others would get him to come out of isolation. Hinata-sama. Niji's voice snapped the kunoichi out of her thoughts. I know that I have said this before, but I just want to tell you once more how sorry Niji-san, please stop. The girl interrupted, pleased with herself for having mustered the courage to do so. You do not need to apologize, she informed him. I have already forgiven you since the beginning. The simple look on his cousin's eyes was enough to move the Hyuga prodigy. But Niji unsuccessfully tried to talk. Unable to stand the look on those pale eyes, the black-haired boy looked down at his hands. Suddenly, Hinata reached out and took one of the boy's hands into hers. It took all of Niji's self-control not to jolt in surprise at the action. Looking up, the older Hyuga was once again caught by his cousin's eyes that were now filled with a mix of kindness, honesty, and strength. You are my cousin, the girl began, her voice filled with determination. No matter what you did nor what you do, I will always forgive you, she explained calmly. So, if you are really sorry for what you did, please stop repeating yourself. It does not suit you, Niji-san. She emphasized the end by squeezing his hand. A small chuckle escaped Niji's lips. In all honesty, Hinata found the sound odd. There is no way for me to defeat you right now, is there? He asked with his newly found tone of amusement. The kunoichi giggled at her cousin's statement. Nope, she answered sweetly. You have to go through really desensitizing training for that, she added with a smile. The two cousins shared a heartfelt laugh, the first one in many years. So, how come they changed your room? Hinata asked as she handed the food she had brought to the boy. A sigh escaped Niji's lip. That's the thing, he began. I'm now Sharon. YOSH. The door abruptly opened. In its threshold stood one Rock Lee, smiling brightly as he supported his body on a crutch. Oh, Hinata-san, long time no see. The outgoing genin exclaimed as he gave the girl one of his patented shiny smile. Niji-kun is not giving you any trouble, is he? He asked as he looked from the girl to his teammate. Because, even though I'm in crutches, I will defend you from your cousin with all of the burning passion of my youthful flame, Lee proclaimed. Another sigh escaped the older Hyuga. It seems that when Hayashi-sama found out that one of my teammate was receiving treatment in this hospital, he thought that it would be good for our teamwork if we shared a room, Niji said in a defeated tone, though the young prodigy was sure there was a certain head of the Hyuga clan, seating in his lounge, that was laughing his head off right about now. We were really lucky, were we not, Niji-kun? We have to thank your uncle for this, Lee said, completely oblivious of his teammates' dismay. We need to rekindle our friendship and build up an even more powerful flame of youth. Knowing that he might regret the answer, the older Hyuga felt obligated to ask. What are you talking about, Lee? Niji questioned warily. The taijutsu user moved to seat on his bed before answering. Ever since we were assigned to become teammates, I always felt that you were a little distant from Tenten and me, always going by yourself and keeping us at bay. Lee began to explain. At one point I even thought that you did not want to be my friend, that you were just annoyed by my presence. He commented, completely unaware of how close to the truth he had gotten. Well, it seems that, after your fight with Naruto-kun, you have become more open and begun to let other in. Do you not think so, Hinata-san? The boy asked, looking at the younger Hyuga. The blue-haired girl was surprised by eccentric boy's words. She looked from Niji to Lee and back before lighting the room with a smile. Yes, I think so too, she answered. See? Lee immediately exclaimed. So now that you have changed, for the better if you asked me, we need to work on our new and improved bond of friendship, the boy proclaimed, giving his teammate his own patented nice guy pose. Niji sighed again and rolled his eyes while Hinata giggled at the eccentric genin's antics. Still oblivious to the other's response to his action, Lee continued. Also, after we get discharged from here, we have to go and get Naruto-kun, because he too will become a part of the most youthful flame of youth that this village has ever seen, he declared as he suddenly stood up. I'm going to call Guy-sensei and ask him to get matching jumpsuits for you and Naruto-kun, the boy said before swiftly exiting the room. No, Lee, wait, Niji called out. Unfortunately, his teammate was too fast, even in crutches, and he was already well out of earshot. I'm going to live to regret these events, the boy commented as Hinata lost control of her giggling, giving birth to all-out laughter. The boy was slightly embarrassed of his actions. The moment he had heard Kiba screaming about their mission to capture the guys from Team 7, he immediately dropped his training and hid. Even after they were out of earshot, he had decided it was best to remain out of sight a while more. 2 hours later, Sasuke finally felt it was safe to come out. The Uchiha sighed. It wasn't that he did not want to be bothered by his comrades, it was simply that a class congregation was too much too soon for him. He had no idea how he should act on such occasions with such company. To put it simply, the Sharingan user was socially challenged. In truth, ever since he was a little kid, the raven-haired boy had been all alone. From recess at the academy to holidays, for days on end, ever since that fateful night, Sasuke had always been by himself. But maybe I don't have to be alone anymore, the boy thought. Like the rest of the spectators, Sasuke had been extremely shocked during Naruto's fight against Niji, though compared to him the villagers might as well have been just mildly surprised. But after the initial shock had subsided, which he would admit had not happened until the battle against Gaara, the boy began to think. For far too long the Uchiha compound had been deserted, with only him as its sole inhabitant, but now that might change. After he had a chance to reflect about his teammate's revelation, Sasuke had decided that the only possible explanation was that Naruto had his clan's blood running through his veins. I'm not the last Uchiha in Konoha anymore, the raven-haired boy whispered. He could still remember the myriad of feelings he had felt the moment he laid eyes on Naruto's blue and white Sharingan. He would not lie and say he wasn't scared, but happiness and excitement were also in the mix, even when the blonde displayed a technique that was too eerily similar to what Itachi had. Properly putting his training gear away this time, Sasuke considered his next plan of action. True, Naruto's Sharingan was different from his, unlike any he had ever seen actually, in both form and abilities, but the simple fact of it being the clan's Kekkei Genkai was more than enough to consider the idea of Naruto being an Uchiha. Well, Otosan did say that the Sharingan was the proof of an Uchiha. The genin rationalized. The boy prepared himself mentally. What he was about to do would be embarrassing and awkward in so many different levels, but for the sake of the Uchiha clan, it was necessary. Well, the fact that he really did not want to be all by himself anymore was an added incentive, but he was really doing it for the clan's future. At least that would be the reason he would give the Shinobi Bureau office when he asked them for an address change form for Konoha needs. Changing out of his training attire, Sasuke took a deep breath. He was about to put himself in a tremendously vulnerable situation. He was betting his pride, and going all out with it, on the chance that his teammates still regarded him as a friend. The idea of possible embarrassment made him a little wary of the situation, but the chance of another member of the Uchiha clan brought a smile to his face. Giving a small bow to the picture of his parents, the raven-haired genin exited the house. He hadn't realized while he was training, or while he was hiding, but it was a bright and sunny in Konoha this afternoon. "It seems this is going to be a nice day," Sasuke commented. Finally reaching an area that wasn't under reconstruction, Naruto came to the decision that there was no way to fight off the small smile that adorned his face. While it might have been true that he was dragged out of his apartment by force, nothing short of kidnapping, the blonde found himself admitting that he had spent an enjoyable time, the best he had in a very long time. Asuma had taken the guys to eat steak, at Chuji's request of course, and the group of genin passed the time taking shots at each other, Kiba having become the main character and being picked apart by his comrades while his dog laughed at his angry outburst. There had only been a single regrettable aspect during their lunch. All along during their time in the restaurant, the blonde had been the object of glares and sneers. Most of the other customers, not to say all since the Jinchuriki did not want to generalize, had decided to not enjoy their own food, and instead focused their efforts in loathing him. Naruto wasn't as stupid as he once appeared to be. He had been aware of the consequence of his unveiling of the Sora Sharingan to the public, yet actually hearing their contempt-filled comments had been hard on the genin. It had reminded him of a time when all that he could do was run and keep on running. The blonde's smile grew slightly. He could now fondly recall how, after some villager had made an intolerably cruel comment about how the Jinchuriki's blue Sharingan was a stain in the prideful mantle of Konoha that was the Uchiha clan, that it was a proof that the boy was an abomination and he should have never been born. If the ranting man had wanted to say something else, Naruto would never know, because a second later Akamaru had lunged himself towards him, biting the man hard in the arm. The man screamed in pain and flailed his arm trying to shake the infuriated dog, only urging the animal to bite down harder, while Kiba had suddenly found the leaves outside of the restaurant tremendously interesting. At that moment, the man's two companions had made a movement to stand out before they suddenly froze. Originally, the blonde had thought that the two men had been caught by Shikamaru's Kagame no Jutsu, since the Nara was glaring at the group almost as hatefully as they were doing moments ago. That's when Naruto realized that the men's immobility was caused by Chuji. The Akimichi had by then stood up and for some reason, seemed imposingly sized, completely halting the men's movements. Before the scene could escalate to a volatile level, it came to an abrupt end. Flashback. "Somebody, get this beast off of me!" The man screamed as he tried to force Akamaru's mouth open. Back in the genin's table, Kiba had finally become disinterested with the leaves and was in the process of standing up while closing and opening his suddenly clawed hand, as though he were warming up for something. "That is enough, Akamaru-kun," Shino said, surprising his comrades by appearing at the men's table out of the sudden. The black-haired boy proceeded on patting the assaulting dog on the head, causing him to release the offending man's arm at last. Immediately, the man pulled back as he clutched his arm in pain. "That miserable beast! I'll tell the authorities about this," he declared. The Aburame slowly moved his gaze towards the man. "About what, exactly?" the genin questioned. "I am not aware that anything has happened here," the boy commented as he pushed his sunglasses up. "And besides, we have 5 other leaf shinobi, one of them being a jounin, seating right in this restaurant, and I am sure none of them saw anything either." The 3 men looked at the boy in bafflement, occasionally stealing glances at the table from where Asuma was giving them an ominous smile. "So I think it will be better if you just leave this place now," Shino commented as he turned around, walking back towards his seat. It took the men all of 4 seconds to regain control of their bodies and take off running from the restaurant. Just as he arrived at his seat, Shino turned around. "I am sorry for the scene, please go back to enjoy your day," the boy said, addressing the others in the restaurants. Looking directly at the restaurant's owner, he proceeded. "We will pay for whatever they ordered." the Aburame informed him before regaining his seat. Silence overtook the genin's table. It seemed that none of them could remember what their conversation was before everything started. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the roaring laugh of one Naruto Uzumaki. As the others joined in, the blonde realized that he had not laughed like this in the longest time. End flashback. Sighing, the Jinchuriki sat down on a bench. Not since before his meeting with Uchiha Itachi had Naruto felt he had a place he belonged to like he did today. The boy relaxed in his seat as he took in the scenery of the area. He was glad that the place had survived the invasion because it was nothing short of beautiful, surrounded by trees and with a small canal flowing through it. It was a great place to be alone with your thoughts. At least I'm outside. The Jinchuriki commented, half expecting his friends to suddenly come out from behind the bushes and drag him to a more populated area. Taking a deep breath, the boy allowed his eyes to close. Suddenly, something changed in the area and an ominous feeling took over the blonde. Acting out of instinct, the leaf genin jumped from his seat. Not a second had gone by before the bench had abruptly turned to dust in a sizable explosion. Landing on the other side of the canal, Naruto started to look at his surroundings. A terribly monstrous chakra had suddenly overflowed the area. How did I not sense it before? The boy though as he took out a kunai and frantically continued his search. Suetun Suigaden. All of a sudden, several twisters made out of water rushed up from the canal and came crashing down on the blonde, leaving the young shinobi no choice but to jump back to avoid that attack. The Jinchuriki immediately took a fighting stance the moment his feet got back to the ground while the Sora Sharingan took its place in his eyes. Haha! So it's true, you do have Uchiha blood running through your veins. A voice was heard throughout the area. Before the blonde could search from its source, mist started to come out of the water in the canal. Naruto's Sharingan eyes noticed a tall, imposing figure suddenly appearing among the mist as the chakra that had infected the area spiked and intensified. Whatever had appeared in the middle of the canal took a couple of steps forwards. So you are Naruto, It was obviously a man, and from his silhouette he was apparently carrying a sword on his back. Let me introduce myself, he added. I'm Hoshigaki Kisame, formerly known as the Monster of the Hidden Mist. To emphasize his introduction, the man spiked his chakra once more, blowing away the mist in the area, and revealing his appearance. Naruto's eyes widened. The man was probably the tallest person he had ever seen, but that was far from the most striking feature, as the man standing before had blue skin and what looked like gills below his eyes. Fighting off the initial shock, the blonde also took notice of the scratched Kiri headband and the red cloud pattern on his black cloak. You are with Itachi. A smirk formed on the missing nin's face. Oh, so you noticed, he commented while taking his bandaged sword from his back and pointing at the boy with it. That means I don't have to tell you why I'm here, the swordsman said before he suddenly disappeared. Letting his instincts take over again, Naruto jumped, barely evading a vicious strike from the former Kiri shinobi that crushed the ground he had been standing on. Not wasting any time, the blonde began a set of hand seals. Gakakyu no Jutsu, he shouted before releasing a massive fireball towards the blue-haired man. Suigaden! The swordsman exclaimed, hands moving so fast that the blonde's Sharingan could barely make out the seals, while his smirk reformed on his face. A new set of spinning water projectiles shot from the water towards the fireball, extinguishing the flames like it was nothing, and continuing towards the genin. Swiftly, the Jinchuriki's hands worked their way through another set of hand seals. Kakugen Kangoku no Jutsu, he called out right before an enormous granite wall rose between him and the crushing water missiles, successfully shielding the boy before crumbling down. Kisame set his eyes on the Jinchuriki in front of him, the smirk widening. Not bad, not bad, he started. No wonder you were able to survive Zabuza, but I'm nowhere near as nice as him, he declared before forming another set of seals at even higher speed. Sukudan no Jutsu. Immediately, a shark formed from the water in the canal and shot towards the leaf nin. The blonde started to make hand seals and hoped for the best. Suigaden! The water projectiles surged from the water, shredding the shark apart. Before the genin could take a breath of relief, his Sharingan caught the absence of the blue-haired man. Very good. You are acting like a true Sharingan user, the boy heard from behind. A second later a sickening blow made impact with his back, causing several cuts. What the hell was that? Naruto questioned as he pushed his body off the ground. He could feel his blood starting to run down his back. Ha! The laugh directed the blonde's attention back to the swordsman. Kisame brought his sword forward and removed some of the bandages. Let me present you Samahata, the man announced as he revealed how the blade of his weapon was covered by large, blue scales. This sword is meant to reduce its opponent to shred instead of simply cutting. The smirk found his way bad. Though that's not all, he added before disappearing again. The Konoha genin didn't have time to do anything as the missing nin appeared in front of him and Samehada came down over his body. Kisame was mildly surprised when the boy turned into a cloud of smoke. Housekin no Jutsu. The barrage of small fireballs seemed to come from every direction as they hit the former Miss Shinobi. Panting, Naruto dropped down from one of the trees. That was really something, kid. Kisame's voice sounded from the cloud of dust and smoke. I never even saw when you made the clone, he commented as he brought his sword down, dissipating the dust in the process. You are everything I hoped you would be. I'm having a lot of fun, the cloaked man stated with another smirk. Kagebushin no Jutsu, the blonde called out. Immediately, a large number of Narutos rained down on the blue-haired man. Swinging Samehada with force, the swordsman reduced all the clones to dust. Ha ha ha. Come on, show me what else you got. The man dared the boy. Gritting his teeth, the blonde jumped back as his eyes focused on his opponent. Amaterasu! He exclaimed. Black flames immediately overwhelmed the area in front of the Jinchuriki, completely encasing the blue-haired man in a terrible inferno. As they continued to pant, Naruto watched the flames causing the missing nin to collapse to his knees. The relief was short-lived as the swordsman's body turned into water. Come on, give me a little more credit. Itachi is my partner after all. Do you think that I will be taken down by the same technique he uses? Terror filled the young shinobi's eyes as he turned around just in time to see Samehada crash down on the back of his shoulder and push his body to the floor. Naruto tried to push his body off the ground, but the strength with which Kisame was holding his sword was too much for the boy to even move. No. It's not only that, the blonde thought. My body. It feels heavy for some reason. Almost as if my chakra is diminishing. Hey. The small chuckle caught the Jinchuriki's attention. It seems that you are experiencing Samehada's other ability, Kisame commented as he pushed his sword down with more force, driving its scales deeper into the genin's back. My sword is an awfully vicious predator. Apart from massacring its victim, it does so while eating away at his chakra, and growing stronger with each bite. The man explained. From the floor, the leaf nin's eyes widened even further in horror, understanding clearly the implications of the swordsman's words. Smirking at his praise reaction, the former Mist Shinobi continued. I know your type, brat. He emphasized it by pushing further down. Since you have an abnormally large supply of chakra, you tend to make up for the lack of precision of your attacks by adding an extra kick in their destructive power. The man chuckled before proceeding. And there's really nothing wrong with that. I prefer such tactics myself, but once in a while, you find someone fully equipped to counter it. As he panted, the blonde tried to move his head in order to get the attacking missing nin in his line of sight while he talked. Realizing the boy's intentions, Kisame paced his foot over the young shinobi's head and pressed down hard into the ground. Ever since this whole thing started, Samehada has been preying away at your chakra. That's why you have been panting for some time now. A laugh followed the Nukanin's words. You see, I'm the most well-suited to take you down. I have the ability to cancel out all of your strengths. Naruto could barely see past his aggressor's foot, but he could still discern the prideful, wicked smile on the swordsman's face. We are two opposing forces, you and I, Kisame commented. You could even say that we are natural enemies, the said, pressing his sword even harder on the Jinchuriki's back. Leaf and twigs crushed as he walked. Jiraiya found himself somewhere deep in the training grounds. Man, I haven't been around these parts in a really long time, the Sannin said as he leaned against a large tree. At least all those prunes from the council won't find me here and make me work, he happily commented. So, why have you asked me to such a remote place? The white-haired man asked as he sat down on one of the exposed roots. The faint sound of approaching steps could be heard from behind the tree. They had begun to move once more. A voice spoke. Han of Iwagakure was confronted sometime yesterday. I believe it is a matter of time before they capture him along with the gobi he carries. Jiraiya leaned further on the tree as he looked up at the falling leaves. I don't suspect that you're just making this out because you're bored, are you? Silence was his only response. What else can you tell me? They are now actively searching for any signs of the others, the person behind the tree answered. I would guess the Jinchuriki and Kumogakure are the safest at the moment, since they have their village's full support and protection, the hidden man commented. A sigh escaped the leaf shinobi. That's true, I wish I could say the same thing about Naruto and this village, especially right now. A snorted laugh escaped the Sannin. Did you heard what happened during the Chunin exam? I tell you that boy leaves his father in the dust when it comes to making an impression. He amusingly commented. His father? The voice questioned. Separating his back from the tree, the white-haired man turned his head slightly as he smiled knowingly. Oh? Don't tell me you haven't figured it out. He teased. Once again, silence was the only thing heard from the person standing in the tree's shadow. Anyways, Jiraiya started. Akatsuki. What are we going to do about it? He asked, clearly open for suggestions. A slight shift of the feet was heard. Just exactly. How many Bijou are actually inside a Jinchuriki out there? The voice finally questioned. I am not sure if even Akatsuki has a real definite number. He commented. The Sannin leaned back again. I'm not completely sure myself. The white-haired man admitted. It is a very erratic number, more so as of late. The man's voice suddenly took a saddened tone. Especially after the tragedy of the Maido clan. Maido clan? The hidden man asked, the subject having clearly caught his attention. Jiraiya shook his head slightly. It's a long story. Perhaps some other time. He stated. Let's just say that Konohagakure owes them a lot and leave it at that for now. Silence overtook the two men. After a couple of minutes had passed, the Sannin spoke again. Something tells me that this is not the only reason why you came all the way here. The white-haired man noted. The Gobi is not the only target, is he? He received no answer once more. When are they targeting him? Jiraiya questioned, wary of the answer due to the presence of the man behind him. Right now, was the short answer. Jiraiya sighed again as he stood up. Chapter 18 Uchiha. Naruto could barely see past his aggressor's foot, but he could still discern the prideful, wicked smile on the swordsman's face. We are two opposing forces, you and I. Kisame commented. You could even say that we are natural enemies, he said, pressing his sword even harder on the Jinchuriki's back. The blonde could feel his body been driven deeper into the ground by the former Kirin-nin's strengths. He tried to push himself off the ground again, but his body didn't move an inch. Damn it. Stupid body, move. The boy's orders were ignored as his body grew heavier and his strength weaker. This is what happens when you spend all of your days sulking instead of training. The fox scowled him in his mind. Lately you have been relying too much on those eyes of yours, neglecting your body and simply copying others like a mindless monkey. The Bijou ranged. Now, there is nothing I can do. A hint of fear betrayed Kyubi's anger, sending another dose of terror down the Leaf Genin's spine. Continuing to struggle, the boy knew he had to keep himself from passing out. What do you want with me? Naruto asked. A snigger escaped Kisame. What? Itachi didn't tell you during your encounter? The man wondered. I don't see what harm is in telling you our objective. He finished by pressing harder with Samahata. We are collecting all the Bijou, all of those living catastrophes that roam this world. He paused to laugh. It's just too bad that you got caught in this crossfire by having the strongest Bijou sealed inside of you, though it does make it easier to carry. Down on the ground, Naruto's eyes widened. Itachi did say that they wanted me because of the fox, but all of them. His mind immediately thought of Gaara. How many others are there? The boy wondered. Confident that he had his prey under control, the missing Nin started to talk animatedly. I tell you, after Itachi's little failure, I was sure that it would be a pain in the ass to capture you. The mocking tone was evident in Kisame's voice. We were certain that old fart of a Hokage would keep you under 24-hour surveillance. The Jinchuriki's Sharingan eyes snapped open at the mention of the fallen Hokage, though I was starting to look forward to slaughter wave after wave of Leaf A and BU. The former Miss Swordsman commented, unaware and uncaring of his opponent's thoughts, of the mental turmoil that his insult had caused. But then the geezer goes and dies on all of you, leaving the village in its biggest crisis since the Kyubi attacked. His words were soon followed by an all-out laugh. If that wasn't an invitation for us to come and get you, I don't know what it is, the man exclaimed. We will get that Bijou out of you before the maggots can finish eating the Sandame's body. Suddenly it appeared as if the ground below Kisame had cracked, and despite all the strength he was exerting on his sword, Samahata started to rise up. Damn you! Naruto's words were full of venom as he, with fist driven into the ground, started to force his body off the destroyed pavement. I will not let you insult the third, the blonde shouted. The counteracting strengths were so great that the boy's knuckles were already tainted crimson. I'm going to kill you, he exclaimed as he briskly moved his head, shaking the Kiri fugitive's foot off his face, and setting his eyes on him. A wicked smile took hold of Kisame's face. Ha ha ha. You sure are a riot brat, the Akatsuki member happily exclaimed as he raised his sword of the boy's back. Before the Konoha genin could even think the word Amaterasu, the blue-haired man had swiftly brought down Samehada down on the blonde's back. The sickening impact of the blow caused the few birds that had remained in the area during the battle to fly away scared. Naruto once again lay on the floor, nothing short of a bloody mess on the crater that had been formed by his body. The young man was dimly aware of where he was, and it cost him a great deal of effort not to pass out right then and there. Looking at the damage he had caused, the former Kiri-nin had to force himself not to continue on laughing. Hey. Not bad, brat, he commented. Had the circumstances been different, if you had a chance to mature and harness your potential, you would have become a terribly powerful shinobi, with that strong will of yours. The man swung his sword to his back, deeming it unnecessary to deal with what remained of his prey. To tell you the truth, this makes me a little sad. I would have loved to fight a more mature and experienced you, Kisame admitted as he crouched down and started to move his hands towards the Jinchuriki's collar. The Akatsuki member was ready to capture his target. Chirp, 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 chirp. The deafening sound of birds suddenly overwhelmed the area, catching the missing nin's attention. A second after the blue-haired man had jumped out of the way, the ground beside the young Jinchuriki seemingly exploded, sending dust and rubble into the air. Kisame brought his hand back to Samehada as he watched the dust settle, a smirk forming on his face. There, between the Miss Swordsman and the beaten-up blonde, stood how Kisame had always pictured Itachi would have looked around 5 years ago. Dark locks falling over an unscratched leaf headband and encasing a pair of Sharingan eyes glaring at him. The churning and flashes of electricity on the boy's left hand only added effect to the picture. Sasuke's glare narrowed at the strange man's smirk. Shifting his eyes, the Uchiha caught the current state of his teammate that lay on the floor. A surging pang of anger rose through the raven-haired genin at the sight of his friend's blood pooling around his body. What did you do? The Sharingan user asked, the lightning chakra in his hand intensifying for emphasis. The widening in Kisame's grin showed that he had disregarded the question. So you are Sasuke, I heard a lot about you, the blue-haired man commented. I was hoping I'd get to run into you while I was here, he continued as he brought his sword forward. There are a lot of people that expect big things from you, did you know? The former Kiri shinobi started to emit overpowering amounts of chakra. And I wanted to see for myself if you were worth all the fuss. He watched the young Uchiha closely for any reactions. If the leaf genin was intimidated by the missing nin, he had managed not to show it as his face never betrayed the anger he was feeling. What did you do to Naruto? He asked again, still receiving nothing but a smirk from the blue-haired man. Answer me, damn it. The right unjutsu in his hand flared once again. Sasuke. A stir and a pained call from behind him caused the raven-haired boy to turn back and set his attention on his friend. The blonde was trying to once again push his broken body off the floor. Naruto! Sasuke called out. Gritting his teeth, the young Jinchuriki fixed his eyes on his teammate. I'm alright, he assured him weakly. With his Sharingan activated, the raven-haired genin could see how his comrade's chakra was slowly gathering on his wounds. It's not supposed to be like that. The boy's mind pondered. Naruto has always had more chakra, he thought as he suddenly came into a realization. Sasuke had been already on his way home, having decided to take the scenic route just in case Kiba and the other were still trying to catch him, when he suddenly felt the clashing chakra in the nearby area. Recognizing one of the chakra signatures as Naruto's and soon realizing that it was fading, the boy did not hesitate in forming a Chidori and charging in. But now, seeing the current condition of his friend and the uncharacteristic behavior of his chakra, the young Sharingan user knew that fight had been underway for a long time. Back to the matter at hand, the Uchiha shook his head. No, you're not alright, he stated as he moved his right hand to his pocket. Here, eat this. The raven-haired crouched down and put his last soldier pill in his teammate's mouth. Sasuke's Sharingan could see the blonde's chakra been replenished and the wounds on his back starting to heal almost immediately. Now, what's going on? He asked as his friend was finally starting to stand up. Still feeling the pain from the assault on his back, Naruto struggled to his feet. I don't know much myself. The Jinchuriki managed to get out. His name is Kisame. He's a former Miss Swordsman, and he belongs to a group called Akatsuki. The blonde explained, stopping himself from adding along with your brother. But why are you fighting him? The Uchiha asked, already familiar with the reputation of the Miss Swordsman. Naruto gritted his teeth, not prepared to answer that question. As the spiky-haired boy's mind raced for answer, the two leaf nines were interrupted. Suigaden! The torrents of water gushed out of the canal and shot in direction of the two boys, forcing the genins to jump back to dodge them. You know, I don't personally like being left out of a conversation, Kisame commented as both pair of Sharingan eyes settled on him. The raven-haired shinobi looked at his blonde companion. The two of us can take him, he declared as he brought his still-alive Chidori forward. I don't know. He's a high-level jounin and we haven't had much practice in fighting together, Naruto pointed out, though his stand became a little more aggressive nonetheless. We fought Haku together, Sasuke argued, his Sharingan eyes narrowing on the blue-haired man. A snort escaped the blonde. Do you even remember how that fight ended up? The Jinchuriki shot back. I would think not, since you were unconscious on the floor. The Uchiha simply shrugged off the remark. But that was a long time ago. We have grown since then. The way he leaned forward made him seem predatory. We are both stronger now, the genin stated, sighing. A smirk formed on Naruto's face. I guess you are right. Kakuden Kengoku no Jutsu, the blonde suddenly shouted. A streak of granite walls started to rise in front of the two genin toward the Akatsuki member. The smile returned to the swordsman. Now that's more like it, he exclaimed as he easily sidestepped the incoming wall. Even before the blue-haired man's feet could return to the ground, the wall next to him unexpectedly exploded and a lighting-covered hand shot through the dust towards him, causing the former Kiri-nin to move further back. Preparing a counterattack was Samahada. Something else caught Kisame's attention. Suigaden! The Jinchuriki's command was heard the moment Kisame stepped on the canal and was immediately followed by another torrent of water from the water behind the Akatsuki member. Damn it! The former Miss Shinobi cursed as he used his sword to cut down the assaulting streams before they reached him. With his back turned, the noob nin could not see the smirk that had taken residence on Sasuke's face. But he did heard how the Uchiha softly said, "Got you," before plunging his right-hand jutsu into the canal. Electricity flowed through the water and overwhelmed the towering man. The raven-haired genin smiled at the show of flashes and light he had created until his Sharingan eyes caught sight of the man's body turning into water and falling down on the canal. What the? Sasuke pondered as he took a step forward, looking around for any sign of their enemy. Surin no Jutsu. Suddenly, water encased the young Uchiha's body into a sphere as a figure rose from the water next to trapped genin. Ha ha ha. The former Kiri-nin laughed as he looked from one dumbstruck boy to the other. That was really clever of you. I had to quickly get out of the water until the lightning chakra settled down a bit, he admitted as his eye set his eyes on the raven-haired boy. Now you just sit there while I beat Naruto-kun up again. His words were accompanied by another rising figure in the water. A water clone stood between the Akatsuki member, and the trapped leaf nin, and the Jinchuriki. The Bushin carried a perfect replica of the smile on his creator's face as he brought his identical Samahada forward and pointed it at the blonde's direction. Inside the spiky-haired boy's mind, his thoughts raged. What can I do? I have to get Sasuke out of there, Naruto exclaimed in his head. The Mizubushin walked confidently towards the young man, Kisame realizing more chakra with each of his clone's steps. Panic was starting to overcome the genin. Well, since you have been depending so much in your damn Sharingan, put it to some use, Kyubi ranted in his container's mind. Start acting like an Uchiha, damn it, Naruto sighed, understanding where the bijou was going, and forced himself to calm down. Don't worry, Sasuke, I'll get you out, he declared as he brought his hands together. A short, odd laugh escaped the blonde. Hell, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself when I saw it during the Chunin exam. Curiosity got the best of Kisame, and he willed his clone stop on his tracks. Both blue-haired men stood watching as the Jinchuriki started through a set of hand seals. Tiger, dragon, rat, bird, ox, snake, dog, monkey, tiger. From inside the water sphere, Sasuke could barely make up the sequence of hand seals that his teammate was performing, but something about it seems rather familiar to the raven-haired boy. There was no mistake in the Sharingan user's mind about the pose that the blonde assumed afterwards. The Jinchuriki stood with legs somewhat parted, crouching slightly, right arm extended downwards, and his left hand resting on the stretched forearm. Naruto's eyes were fixed on his right hand as an exceptionally serious look took over his face. Both Kisames tilted their heads slightly to their side as they watched their target's behavior. The missing nin could sense the tremendously large amounts of chakra that the blonde was gathering in his right hand, but there was no sign of a jutsu taking effect. Come on, the spiky-haired boy pleaded in his mind as he continued to pump chakra down his right arm and into his hand. The rate of sweat dripping down the Jinchuriki's face dramatically increased as he gritted his teeth and increased the hold of his left hand on his right forearm. Please, work. Despite his situation, Sasuke watched his teammates' actions in a mix of worry and amazement. With his Sharingan, the Leaf Genin could see the dangerously large quantity of chakra that had gathered in his hand. The grip his hand had on his forearm was so strong that it was a matter of time before blood would start to drip down as his fingers impaled into the skin. But Naruto could not care less. More power, more focus, until the point it's about to explode. The blonde meditated. The eyes of the former Miss Swordsman widened as the water beneath the Jinchuriki's feet started to boil. The blue-haired man finally became aware of the sudden rise of temperature in the area, concentrating around the young shinobi. A half-smile formed on Naruto's lips as the bubbles soon became bands of steam that rose into the air all around him. I guess this is as far as I can get at the moment, the Sharingan user commented as they straightened up. It's not complete yet, but it'll have to do, he declared as his eyes narrowed on the water clone. The spiky-haired boy had his right arm extended and his hand was surrounded by steam and smoke. The Mizubushin smirked as the Jinchuriki shot swiftly towards him, leaving a trail of water vapor behind, and raised his duplicate Samehada and prepared for a counter-strike. The bandaged swords came down just as the blonde's hand shot forward. Kisame's eyes widened at the collision. Before the sword could get close enough to its prey to do any damage, the entire water cone seemingly exploded into a cloud of steam that spread through the area, reaching all the way to the Nukenin and his prisoner. The swordsman's surprise was so strong that he barely registered Naruto's smoke-covered hand coming towards him through the cloud of steam, leaving the towering man no choice but to release his water prison and jump away to evade the incoming attack. Naruto stood next to his shocked teammate with a smirk directed towards their opponent. The smile weakened when the blue-haired man started to laugh. Incredible, I really didn't see any of that coming, the Akatsuki member exclaimed. First I thought you were going to use Hataki's jutsu as well, but it turned out to be a katan. Though it did go a little askew nevertheless, evaporating my water clone. Very sneaky, brat, the swordsman praised with a smirk. Ignoring the comments from the former Kiri shinobi, the blonde looked at his comrade. Are you okay? Sasuke scoffed. I could have gotten out of there myself, he commented, but at the look his friend was giving him, he added. Eventually, in an undertone. And what's with that jutsu? The raven-haired boy asked, taking a defensive tone. The spiky-haired boy allowed himself to smirk for a second. Some other time, he requested. The Jinchuriki's grin disappeared before he directed his gaze towards the Akatsuki member. 2 more water clones were rising out of the water. Do you still think we can take him? He asked. We'll just have to find out, the raven-haired boy responded. Immediately, both Sharingan users started to form hand seals. Kisame was impressed with their speed and synchronization as they made the same seals at the same time. Gakakyu no Jutsu, both boys shouted in unison. 2 fireballs united into one gigantic, blazing behemoth flying towards the 2 Bushins. The explosion that followed was devastating. Kisame stood smirking at the fireworks as his cloud-patterned cloak fluttered violently trying to get away from the blast. His grin wavered a little as the 2 genins' voices were heard through the sound of falling rubble. Housekin no Jutsu, a vast barrage of small fireballs instantly broke through the cloud of dust flying viciously towards the blue-haired man. Grabbing Samehada from his back, the former Miss Shinobi concentrated his chakra into his sword before bringing down in a fierce swipe. The move was strong enough that caused a gust of wind to shot forward, blowing away the incoming fires, revealing a group kunais that have been hidden by the flames. The blades harmlessly hit the floor around the swordsman as his smirk returned. Suddenly, several of the kunais changed as their henge was dropped, now showing explosive tags wrapped around them. There wasn't even time for the Nukenin to jump as his body was consumed by a massive explosion. Both Konoha Genin stood smirking between pants at the second blast. They had enough time to look at each other before their relief was shattered by the laugh they were starting to hate. Ha ha ha. This is so much fun! Kisame exclaimed as all the dust suddenly dispersed, revealing the Akatsuki member to be completely unharmed. I can't remember the last time I had gone through so many water clones, he managed to confess between laughs. I never thought that I was going to have so much entertaining on this mission, the towering man excitedly stated. The 2 men looked at each other again, each one seeing the fear in the other's Sharingan. The maniacal grin on Kisame's face widened. Let's kick it up a nudge and get serious, what do you say? The swordsman exclaimed as his hand went through a series of hand seals at such a high speed that the boy's Sharingans could not fully follow. Here's a big one, Suryuden no Jutsu. A tremor seemed to run through the area as an enormous tower of water rose into the area and took the shape of a dragon. Two pairs of terror-filled Sharingan eyes watched as the torrential serpent, bigger than the one their sensei had once created, made its way towards them. The two genins were too bewildered to even move out of the Suiton Jutsu's path of destruction. Surprisingly, the water dragon's movement halted just a couple of feet away from its prey. All three shinobi watched in surprise as the leviathan started to writhe, as though in pain. "You just had to ruin my fun, didn't you?" Kisame commented with a sigh. With a horrifying roar, the dragon suddenly exploded into numerous dark ravens. The black birds fluttered around the area from a moment before the avian creatures came together into a shadowy mass. Slowly, the dark mass started to take the form of a person. "I thought I told you no lethal force, Kisame," he calmly commented. "You!" Sasuke immediately roared the moment his eyes caught sight of the newcomer. Before Naruto could even do anything, the raven-haired boy was already dashing towards his older brother. The Chidori that had formed in the young Sharingan user's hand started to grow, soon covering the genin's body, before a dragon made completely out of lightning shot towards the oldest Uchiha. Itachi! The monstrosity opened up its jaws and devoured the former leaf shinobi in a massive explosion. Breathing hard, Sasuke strained his eyes to look through the cloud of dust that had risen. He wanted to see the body. He needed to see his brother's body burned, destroyed, and demolished by his attack. As the debris finally started to settle down, the younger Uchiha could see nothing. No charred cloths, no destroyed body, no tore limbs, nor pool of blood. There was just a crater created by his Raikiri Ryu. Ferociously looking around, Sasuke searched for any sign of his brother's location. The boy's Sharingan caught something from the corner of his eyes. Looking back in shock, the leaf genin's eyes widened in a mixture of surprise, terror, and anger. Behind him stood Itachi with his back turned to him. Now he could see that his brother was wearing the same cloud-patterned cloak as Kisame, but at the moment the boy could not care less about that fact. The oldest Uchiha had his right arm extended in the air, and his hand had a fierce hold on Naruto's neck as the blonde struggled to break free. The Jinchuriki's logs flailed uselessly as Itachi held his body up. "It has been a long time, Naruto-kun," Itachi commented in a sly voice. "Aye, Itachi." The spiky-haired boy managed to get out as he continued to struggle. The Akatsuki member had tilted the boy's head back so that all he could set his Sharingan eyes on were the clouds above them. A smirk worthy of Kyuubi formed on Itachi's face. He did not need to see the blonde's face to know that it was filled with anger, fear, and desperation. "I see that you have become stronger since the last time I saw you," the black-haired young man continued. "Tell me, how is it going with that strange Sharingan of yours?" he asked in a mocking tone. "Itachi!" Sasuke called out in rage at being ignored by the person who once took everything away from him. "Look at me, damn you! Turn around!" the boy roared, but his brother gave no sign of acknowledgement to his wrathful words. Kisame watched from a distance with an almost goofy grin. "This is what I've been waiting for," the blue-haired man commented. "The great Uchiha family reunion, it's going better than I ever could have hoped for." Never before had the swordsman desired a bowl full of popcorn as much as he did now. Gritting his teeth with an almost crushing force, Sasuke rushed through a set of hand seals. "Turn around, damn you!" the raven-haired boy spat out. "Turn around, so that I can see your face when I kill you!" the genin shouted before dashing towards his brother with a Chidori charging in his left hand once again. It was not until the enraged boy was only a couple of feet away from his brother that Itachi turned his head slightly to the side and shifted his eyes towards him. The Akatsuki member simple extended his free hand towards the incoming genin. Half a dozen crows flew from the Itachi's sleeve. Instantly flying and surrounding the younger Uchiha, the bird started to attack with unnatural ferocity and strength. Not even with his Sharingan could the raven-haired boy see what hit him. Despite all of his determination, Sasuke's body fell onto the ground less than 3 feet away from his brother. Immediately, the assaulting ravens changed targets, setting their eyes on the captured Jinchuriki. Just like they had done before, the avian creatures started circling their next victim. With an ominous smile, Itachi relinquished his hold on the blonde's neck and let the boy fall. Before Naruto's body could hit the ground, the crows had already reduced him to a bloody mess once again. "Damn you, you bastard!" the spiky-haired boy forced out. The chakra he had regained with the solider pill had all but gone, leaving the genin to struggle on the floor once more. The older Sharingan user simply regarded the beaten boy for a couple of seconds before delivering a powerful kick to the blonde's chest, sending him a couple of feet back. The sound of something snapping could be heard all the way where Kisame was standing, causing the former Kirin to smile. "Do not misinterpret my words, Naruto-kun," Itachi started with a serious tone. "I might have said that you had become stronger, but you are by far nowhere near our level." The Jinchuriki could only look at the older man. He didn't even had enough chakra to activate his Sora Sharingan again. At this moment, both you and Sasuke-kun. Itachi took a moment to glace at his younger brother who was struggling just like his teammate. "Are only a couple of pathetic brats pretending to be shinobi." The Nuke Nin narrowed his Sharingan eyes. "But still, both of you carry the same blood that runs through my veins. You are subject to the same overwhelming desire for power as me. You are both Uchiha." The seriousness in the young man's voice was overwhelming for the weakened blonde. "You have to give in to that thirst for power as well if you truly want to become stronger." Regaining some of his composure, Naruto managed to glare at the Akatsuki member. "I'll never become like you," the genin declared. The smirk returned to Itachi's face. "You are talking as though you have a choice," he commented. "Like I said, you are an Uchiha, and eventually you will succumb to the hunger and betray anyone in order to achieve more power. It is your and Sasuke-kun's fate, just like it was mine. It is in your best interest to just embrace it before it is too late." His tone became serious again. "Because next time, you will be coming with us." The black-haired man was about to turn around. Naruto managed to call out, "Bastard!" The boy shouted in anger. "Is that why you came here? Just to tell me that I will one day betray my friends and become like you? Well, screw you." The Jinchuriki spat out as he closed his fist tightly. "I will become stronger, but in my own way. I'll surpass you without hurting the people I care about," he proclaimed. A sigh escaped the Uchiha. "You just don't get it, do you?" Itachi didn't wait for an answer before continuing. "You, Sasuke-kun, and I, as part of the Uchiha clan, are bound together by a chain of hatred and greed that goes far beyond your realm of comprehension," he explained. "Never stop improving, always desiring to soar higher, not letting any obstacle hinder the way, all of those thoughts brought together by the fires of wrath. That is what it really means to be an Uchiha, and there is nothing you can do about it." The smirk formed again on the young man's face at Blonde's anguish. "I tell you what, Naruto-kun," the sly tone returned. "I will give you one more chance to prove your ideals." The smirk widened. "When you obtain your third, I will come and find you," Itachi stated. Having said his piece, the Akatsuki member started to turn around. "Itachi!" Sasuke suddenly jumped for the floor and stretched his Chidori-covered hand towards his brother as the curse seal spread through his body. With one swift movement, barely caught by Naruto and Kisame, Itachi grabbed the younger Uchiha by the collar and slammed his body into one of the trees near the canal. "I hope you heard what I told Naruto-kun, because right now you are nothing more than an eyesore for me," he said cruelly as Sasuke fought to break free. "Out of all the Sharingan users left in this world, you are by far the weakest. Give in to your greed and use the hatred to feed your wrath," the young man instructed. Damn you!" Sasuke spat out. Itachi shook his head. "That's not nearly enough. You have to hate me with all of your heart. Perhaps you need a little reminder." The younger Uchiha watched in horror as the komas in his brother's Sharingan merged into a wheel. "Tsukuyami! Sasuke!" Naruto screamed at the sight of his teammate's body going numb in the Akatsuki member's grip. The boy was well aware what the older Sharingan user was doing and of the damage it could cause. Managing to gather some strength, the genin pushed himself up and jumped towards the two brothers. A pain was suddenly felt through the blonde's body before he was violently thrown to the side. "Don't forget about me," Kisame said as he returned Samehada to his back. "It is time for you to leave, Kisame," the shorter man simply stated as he unceremoniously threw his brother's numb body towards the Jinchuriki. The swordsman whined. "Do we really have to? I'm having a lot of fun here," he pointed out. "Naruto! Sasuke!" As he crawled towards his teammate, the blonde could hear his sensei's shouts from the distance. Itachi looked at Kisame. "That should answer your question," he stated. "I am not fond of the idea of facing Kakashi-senpai and the other jounins at the moment." The Uchiha explained as he turned around. The blue-haired man followed suit. "Remember what I said, Naruto-kun, become stronger," he added before the two Akatsuki members disappeared. Naruto gritted his teeth and tightened his fist at his failure before returning to his task of reaching his comrade. "Sasuke, are you all right?" he asked as he shook his friend's body. but got no respond. Sasuke! Naruto! Kakashi's shouts were growing louder and hurried footsteps could be heard. Turning on his back, the blonde Jinchuriki glared at the sky. Damn it! He cursed. I am not strong enough. I'm not strong at all. Naruto managed to shout before his strength finally gave up and his world turned into darkness. Darkness grew stronger with each step he took. He was never an admirer of obscurity and did not enjoy the fact that his eyes were obsolete at the moment, though the same could not be said about his ears. The sound of a sword slashing through air could be heard further ahead. That told him all he needed to know. Why must you practice in such conditions? He asked, knowing that the question's intended target could hear. There are worse things than darkness, I know, I've seen them. The answer came through the shadows. He shook his head. I never expected that you would take the news this bad. He commented. What the hell are you talking about? A smile formed. The news about Konohagakure, about Naruto-chan's exploits against the other Jinchuriki. He explained. I am surprised it upset you like this. After all, Naruto-chan and you don't even go there. Nothing that guy does could bother me. He could die for all that I care. The voice exclaimed. He chuckled slightly. Then why are you here? He asked. You only come down to train like this when something bothers you. Stuff it, Okina. Another chuckle. Well, I, for one, am impressed with young Naruto-chan. He admitted. He's becoming quite a shinobi, just like, well, I doubt it'll last. The voice cut off. We got intel that Akatsuki is making a move on him. It pointed out. If he survives Akatsuki, then I'll accept that he's not a waste of space. A smile formed in Okina's face. Could it be that you are this upset because he is in danger? Growling could be heard from the darkness, and the sound of slashes stopped. Stop wasting my time with stupid thoughts, old geezer. The voice barked, followed by the sound of steps leading further into the darkness. The old man shook his head. The will of the Namikaze lives on in such stubborn and hot-headed individuals. He commented as the sound of his comrade's footsteps faded. Those who have inherited the Yondaime Hokage's blood, I just hope these old bones carry me until the day I get to see them show their true power to the world. Okina chuckled before turning around and walking away. Chapter 19. A matter of control. Remember what I said, Naruto-kun, become stronger. Itachi added before the two Akatsuki members disappeared. Naruto gritted his teeth and tightened his fist at his failure before returning to his task of reaching his comrade. Sasuke, are you alright? He asked as he shook his friend's body, but got no respond. Sasuke! Naruto! Kakashi's shouts were growing louder and hurried footsteps could be heard. Turning on his back, the blonde Jinchuriki glared at the sky. Damn it! He cursed. I am not strong enough. I'm not strong at all. Naruto managed to shout before his strength finally gave up and his world turned into darkness. The absoluteness of the darkness was comforting, Naruto bitterly realized. Right now, it was the perfect place for the beaten Jinchuriki to hide his shame. He felt that he could simply give up and drift through the oblivion of darkness forever, without having to face the harsh reality that the light fell upon. You have to give in to that thirst for power. Naruto gritted his teeth as the voice broke through the darkness. If you truly want to become stronger. Itachi's words resonated, disturbing what would be the blonde's peaceful respite. Hey. That Uchiha truly did a number on you. Kyuubi's voice suddenly cut in, causing his host to frown. The boy was in no mood to deal with the fox at the moment. Now this is more like it. This feeling of helplessness and defeat suits you better, Kit. Ha ha ha. The young leaf Nin tried to push the Biju's words away. The genin just wanted to be left alone so he could pretend he wasn't as weak as he felt at the moment. Ignoring the boy's distress, the fox continued. But you know, that Uchiha spoke the truth. Kyuubi's mocking tone was replaced by a serious one. During the last couple of months, your growth as a shinobi has been nothing short of exceptional. The fox said in one of his rare compliments, but you are still nothing compared to the monsters that are out there. Hell, you are not even worthy to escape the sun in your father's shadow. The Jinchuriki continued to grit his teeth to the point pain spread from his jaw. Then what the hell am I supposed to do? The boy roared. Follow Itachi's advice and selfishly seek more power at the expenses of everyone else? It is not a bad idea. The Bija pointed out. That man's strength is almost as terrifying as the founder of the Uchiha clan, and I for one would not mind my vessel commanding such power. Kyuubi admitted. But, the fox began again. I can assure you that there are other paths that you can follow in your search for power. Naruto's eyes snapped open in the darkness. What do you mean? The genin asked. A couple of moments of silence followed before the bijou answered. If Kami truly does exist, he must have been born the day that you were born. Kyubi started explaining. You are the convergence point for so many forces that should have never met. I am particularly curious, and somewhat wary, of the potential for growth that you possess. The blonde's eyes frowned at the explanation, unsure if the fox's comment was a praise or an insult, though he was leaning towards the latter. But that doesn't tell me anything, he stated. How else can I become stronger? Kyubi's booming laughter answered. Haha. If I were to tell you, then how would that be funny for me? The bijou teased. You just wait, soon your true role will be revealed. And what do you mean by that? Naruto shouted, already losing his temper. What role? What are you talking about? Tell me, Kyubi! The Jinchuriki called out in desperation, but received no answer. Tell me! Tell me! How do I become stronger? The young man pleaded. The darkness did not feel welcoming anymore, instead it suffocated and irritated the genin. Now he wanted out, he wanted to return to the blinding light that shined over all of his flaws so that he could fix them and finally get rid of them. Still, the fox refused to answer his pleas and remained silent. Tell me, damn it! Naruto tightened his fist until he could feel the streaks of blood running through his fingers. A surging feeling suddenly exploded inside the Jinchuriki's body, swelling up and overwhelming his body. Tell me! Light suddenly rushed into the blonde's eyes as he felt his world going vertical once more. Yash! I didn't know you wanted to learn my exercise regimen that badly, Naruto-kun. A voice cut through the brightness. Shaking away the nauseous feelings of exhaustion, Naruto's eyes started to make out the forms around. It did not take long for the Leaf Genin to realize he was in one of many dull and depressing rooms in the Konoha hospital. As he scanned through the room, the Jinchuriki's gaze fell on the older boy seating by his bed. The usual vibrant smile adorned Rock Lee's face as he sat wearing a hospital robe and a set of crutches lied on his side. What? What happened? Naruto asked the older boy. The taijutsu user looked confusingly at his fellow dead last. Don't you remember, Naruto-kun? He wondered before explaining. Gai-sensei and the others brought you here to the hospital. It seems that you were left in pretty bad shape after a big fight. Naruto remained silent for a couple of seconds considering the black-haired boy's words. Yes, the Sharingan user finally said. The images of his second encounter with Uchiha Itachi were far too clear in the Jinchuriki's mind, and the mere memory of them caused his fist to tighten out of reflexes. You have been out cold, Lee continued. So I tried seeing if maybe you would wake up if someone talked to you. When I was getting to my daily training, you suddenly started screaming at me to tell you. By now the memories of fight ran so wild inside the blonde's head that he could barely register his comrade's words. Managing to push back images of Itachi's haunting gaze, Naruto took a deep breath. How long was I out? He asked. Lee took a couple of seconds to think. Well, you were brought here on Kakashi-san's back yesterday afternoon, he commented. And is almost noon today, so about 19 hours. The young man answered with a smile. We saw you been brought in and decided to keep you company, and I guess we ended up spending the night without realizing. The Jinchuriki tilted his head. We? Suddenly, the Sharingan user felt something stir by his side. Looking down, Naruto could not stop a smile from forming at the sight. A blue-haired girl seemingly slept with her head resting just by the blonde's pillow. Hinata stirred slightly before her head slowly started to rise from the hospital mattress. Naruto watched with a mix of curiosity and amusement as the Hyuga drowsily looked from Lee to the very awake blonde. The black-haired boy smiled brightly. Yash, Hinata-san. You are really a heavy sleeper. Naruto-kun has been awake for a while now. The taijutsu user nonchalantly commented. The kunoichi's face immediately took an impressive blush as she gazed at the spiky-haired boy in front of her. Naruto-kun. I was. Yesterday I was. Niji and I. And then they brought you here. And I just. She seemed unable to either complete a sentence nor look away from the boy's sapphire eyes. I mean, how are you feeling, Naruto-kun? The girl managed to ask. The Jinchuriki smiled. Much better than yesterday, thanks for asking, he answered warmly. Hinata smiled back at blonde. I am so glad, Naruto-kun, she stated as she continued to gaze adoringly at the pair of azure orbs. Realizing that she had been staring, the Hyuga immediately stood up as her blush returned with a vengeance. I have to go see Niji Nizan, sorry. The Byakugan user excused herself before swiftly escaping the room. Naruto tenderly watched the young Hyuga as she disappeared from his line of sight. Okay. See you later, Hinata-san. Lee called out from his seat, completely oblivious of the girl's distress. Sighing, the Sharingan user forced his way out of the bed sheets and off the mattress. The moment his weight fell on his legs, the blonde could feel his body screaming to lie back down as the exhaustion forcibly reminded the genin of its presences. Lee looked at the spiky-haired boy. You shouldn't overexert yourself. Both of you were admitted here with severe chakra exhaustion. Truthfully, I'm surprised that you were able to wake up so soon. The older boy explained. The blonde nodded in agreement before his eyes suddenly widened. Sasuke! The Jinchuriki exclaimed. Where is Sasuke? The taijutsu user bit his lip as he took a couple of seconds pondering. Without looking at Naruto, Lee stood up with his crutches and moved towards the door. Intensive care. The normally energetic genin said softly. Follow me, I'll take you there. He stated before crossing the threshold. Naruto silently followed the older boy through the hospital's halls. Each moment that the youthful genin remained quiet increased the blonde's worry. When they brought the two of you in, Lee finally began, breaking the silence. Both of you were covered in bruises and your chakra was alarmingly depleted. He explained while keeping his eyes up ahead. You were completely unconscious and unmoving, but Sasuke-kun. Sasuke-kun's body was shaking uncontrollably. The medic said he was in the worst condition out of the two of you. The Jinchuriki's eyes were downcast. Only Kami knew what Itachi had shown his younger brother in the Shinobi World. Flashes of his own experience in the wrong side of the genjutsu coursed through his mind, causing the boy's fist to tighten. Lee finally turned around to look at the younger shinobi. Though now that I think about, he eyed the spiky-haired boy. Most of your wounds have healed. Naruto's body immediately tensed up, but any worry that might risen was put to ease when the taijutsu user suddenly smiled. I guess you must have a very youthful spirit, the genin stated. The Sharingan user managed to return the smile. You are welcome. The boy heard a certain Bija said as he and Lee reached the end of the hall and turned left. It's just at the end of this hall, Lee informed as he pointed forward. Looking at the door that the older boy was pointing at, Naruto was taken back when a pink blur passed from the hall adjacent to the door and entered. The two young men simply glanced at each other before continuing on their way. Right before they reached the door, a bright smile replaced Lee's troubled expression. Sakura-san. I'm so happy to see you! The black-haired boy exclaimed as he looked inside the room. Immediately, the kunoichi inside gave a slight jolt. She turned around and her gaze, which was previously set on the body lying on the bed, fell on the two boys. Naruto! Lee-san! Sakura said in surprise. The girl's eyes shifted from one teenager to the other before they settled on the blonde's azure eyes. Emerald looked into Sapphire for an instant, but the connection was broken when Sakura quickly looked away. Naruto's eyes remained on his teammate for a couple of seconds longer, but memories of their last encounter, and of all the weakness he had shown her, caused him to look away as well. So, have you heard about Sasuke-kun's condition, Sakura-san? Lee cut in, breaking the awkward moments between the teammates. Sakura gave another small jolt. Composing herself, the pink-haired girl looked at the boy lying on the bed in the middle of the room. Sasuke's skin was extremely pale, and it was marked by bruises, scars, and cuts all over. The only sounds that could be heard in the room for the next couple of moments were those from the machines attached to the raven-haired boy's body. Kakashi-sensei told me this morning what happened. The kunoichi began. I came here right away. The medics told me that they managed to stabilize Sasuke-kun overnight. His chakra has been replenished, and while he's currently out of danger, he is... Sasuke-kun is... She chocked slightly as one of her hands moved to the unconscious Uchihas. The medic said that Sasuke-kun's mind is unresponsive. It seems that he had some nerve damage and they don't know when he'll wake up. Sakura struggled to inform. Naruto took a couple of steps forward. The blonde's eyes fell on his unconscious teammate as he remembered how Sasuke's body had stopped moving as he fell prey to Itachi's genjutsu. Suddenly, Sakura's eyes shot to the spiky-haired boy that was now standing next to her. Naruto, I was going to visit you too, she stated. For some reason, the pink-haired girl felt that she had to let her teammate know that she had not forgotten about him, that she was worried about him, and that his well-being mattered to her. After I had checked on Sasuke-kun, I was going to see you, the girl desperately said as she looked pleadingly into the young man's eye. The Jinchuriki maintained eye contact with her teammate. Naruto was confused. He had never seen such a concerned look on Sakura's eyes while they were looking at him. But then again, He had stopped taking the time to carefully observe those emerald orbs since long ago. "There you are, brat!" A strong and rough voice was heard, immediately causing the pair of young shinobi to realize that they had been staring at the other's eyes. They broke eye contact right away. Fighting the embarrassment that threatened to overwhelm his face, the Sharingan user glanced at the new arrival. Rasengan? Right at the door's threshold stood the legendary Jiraiya, grinning broadly at the group of genin. "I was told you got worked over pretty good," the white-haired man commented as he looked at the blonde. "But seeing you walking around like this, I guess you probably were overreacting about a mere scrap." Naruto glared at the iconic figure. "So you tracked me down just to make fun me?" he asked dryly. "Naruto!" Sakura exclaimed, obviously having recovered from her own bout of embarrassment. "How can you talk to a Sannin that way?" she asked, bewildered. "Ha ha ha." Jiraiya boomingly laughed. "She's just as quick to reprimand you as my teammates were with me," he commented, looking fondly at the pair. "Anyways, I have something important I need to discuss with you." The white-haired joking tone died out slightly. "Why don't you and your friends come with me to the cafeteria and talk there? I haven't had anything to eat the entire day," the Sannin said as he led the way out. "So you're Guy's student, I should have guessed," Jiraiya exclaimed. The Sannin and the three genins sat on a table in the hospital's cafeteria. The white-haired man had insisted that they ate first before getting to more serious matters, and now 8 empty cups of the hospital's instant ramen laid table, 5 of which had been eaten by Naruto. Lee took the white-haired man's comment as a compliment, and immediately smiled brightly. "Yash! I am Rock Lee, the proud student of Miyato Guy, the strongest jounin in the Konoha," the boy proclaimed. "Ha ha ha. I like that spirit," the legendary shinobi stated as he smiled at the energetic boy. "I'll tell you what, Lee-kun," Jiraiya started as he searched for something in his pockets. "I'm going to show you something that I never showed you sensei because I thought he would not be able to handle." The man smiled slyly. "But I believe that you might be able to pull it off." The taijutsu user's round eyes widened as he could barely contain his excitement. The young man's wild imagination had already several mental pictures of this mystery thing that was too youthful for Guy-sensei. Continuing to smile, Jiraiya finally brought out an orange book from one of his pockets. "This," he signaled to the object in his hand, "is the best book series in the world, written by yours truly, and only a selected few can comprehend its tremendous power," the white-haired man cunningly said. A trembling hand moved towards the book. Just before Lee's finger could touch the book, a hand swiftly came down, slamming the orange object into the table. "I'm sorry, Jiraiya-sama," Sakura softly spoke, "but I do not believe that Lee-san is the right person to read this type of book," she said with a small, sweet smile. The pink-haired kunoichi had immediately recognized the book as the one her sensei so disturbingly enjoyed, and for the sake of the hidden leaf, Sakura could not allow someone as impressionable and energetic as Rock Lee to be corrupted those type of books. Needless to say, the Sannin was taken back. It wasn't so much at the girl's actions, but because of how much it reminded him of a certain blonde woman right before she drove her fist into his gut. "Oh. If Sakura-san says I should not read that book, then I must respectfully decline your generous offer, Jiraiya-sama," the black-haired genin lamented as he stole one last glance at the orange book. A sigh escaped the experienced shinobi. He knew he had lost this chance to further promote his book. "Well, to the real reason I came here today," the white-haired man started as his eyes set on the blonde who had successfully watched the entire scene develop while fighting off the desire to smirk. "I have very important mission that I want you to accompany me on," Jiraiya stated with a serious face. "But Naruto has been injured." Sakura immediately voiced her response to Sannin's revelation. "He's in no shape to go on missions, especially very important ones, which just means it's going to be very dangerous," the kunoichi said with true concern in her voice. The white-haired man immediately moved to calm the young girl down. "It's just a searching mission," he assured her. "We will be looking for a person that is very important for Konoha, especially at a time like this," the man explained. Naruto's curiosity immediately sparked. "How so?" the Jinchuriki asked. The Sharingan user had to be sure this was truly an important mission and not merely one of Rasengan's expeditions of inspiration. The blonde had to start his training as soon as possible, and he could not allow himself to be sidetracked, no matter how funny Jiraiya was while being chased out of a bathhouse by a mob of angry women. Jiraiya was a little disappointed. He had expected the young man to be jumping with joy for a chance to leave the village for a while, especially considering all the things that had happened. "Well, for one, she is the best medicine this village has ever seen, and I'm sure she could help both Likuin and the Uchiha over at the intensive care wing," the man informed as he carefully observed the young Jinchuriki. The blonde's mind immediately started processing the information, and Lee's hopeful eyes staring at him were not helping. He really wanted to help his friends recover as soon as possible, but a search mission could take several weeks and even months when it came to tracking down one person, and he really needed to start training. Another sigh escaped the Sannin as he watched the spiky-haired boys struggle with the decision. "Let me sweeten the deal." Jiraiya stared. "What if I teach you an extremely powerful jutsu while we're on the mission?" he said with a smile. "A jutsu created by a certain Hokage," the man softly added. Naruto's eyes immediately widened at the offer. It could certainly take care of his training problem while allowing the boy to help his comrades. "I guess," the Sharingan user slowly said. Immediately, Jiraiya stood up. "Great!" he exclaimed. "Meet me at the village entrance in 2 hours and be sure to pack for a long trip," the man stated before darting out of the cafeteria, before the pink-haired girl channeled Tsunade again and forced Naruto to change his mind. Hatake Kakashi had never been a frequent visitor of the Jounin Lounge. The silver-haired man preferred to laze around at random places in the village, but since the events that occurred right before the Chunin exam, he had opted to spend more and more time hiding in the room reserved for the top shinobi in Konoha. Also, the fact that it had a bar was an added bonus. "Kakashi!" Guy called out as he burst into the room, causing the Sharingan user to cringe. "What is this I heard about Jiraiya-sama taking Naruto-kun out of the village for a mission?" the taijutsu specialist asked as he moved towards his rival. The copy nin simply looked back down at his drink. "It's for the better," he commented. Guy's eyes narrowed. "For the better?" he repeated in disbelief. "Just yesterday we had to carry him to the hospital. The kid was a bloody mess," the man exclaimed. "You're his sensei, you should not allow that he'll be placed in danger like this while in that condition," the black-haired jounin said as he slammed his fist on the bar table. Kakashi seemed to recoil in his seat. "Me being his teacher has brought him nothing but trouble," the man commented. "A couple of months ago, my decisions concerning him ended up with..." He could not finish his sentences. A glare formed on Guy's face. "So you screw up, big deal," he exclaimed. "At least Naruto-kun is still alive, and you have a chance to make this right with him. But Kami forbid, things might not always be like that, so you can't just turn your back at Bin his sensei," the taijutsu user declared. "And what can I do?" Kakashi exclaimed as he stood up, anger and frustration finally flaring out. "I'm not fit to be his teacher. All that I can do for him is bring him pain and sorrow. I have failed my student, my teammate, and my own sensei," he expressed. His voice was a mix of anger and guilt. Naruto would be better off with any other jounin as a teacher. He'll be safer with a hunter nin from Mizu even. Hell, if I still have to make his life miserable by Bin his sensei, he'll be better off da. The silver-haired man's sentence we left unfinished as the taijutsu user's fist was driven into his jaw, sending the copy nin falling back to the floor. The other jounins in the room immediately stood in alert of the commotion. Guy towered over his fallen comrade. The man's normally cheerful and optimistic eyes were now shrouded with disdain and disgust. "You," he spat out. "You are just too sorry to look at right now." His glare seemed deadlier than a Sharingan. "Consider our rivalry over. I'm not going to waste my time with someone as pathetic as you," the black-haired jounin commented before turning around and exiting the room. Kakashi remained on the floor after the door was slammed close. Under other circumstances, he would have been glad, joyous even, that Guy had finally decided to leave him alone, but now, it simply hurt. He had let yet another person down. Naruto ransacked through his apartment as he placed any essential he could think of into his bag. So far, the content of the sack was made up of 10 cups of instant ramen. The blonde still felt uneasy about such small number, but he had forgotten to go shopping, the boy's ninja tools, and 2 changes of clothes. The Jinchuriki knew he was severely underpacked, especially in the ramen department, for a potentially long mission, but the truth was the spiky-haired boy was in a hurry. The Sharingan user was not worried about being late to meet with Jiraiya. The blonde was sure that the old pervert wouldn't leave without him, and he did not mind making the Sannin wait a while. The problem lied somewhere else. Back at the hospital, Naruto had left a near-hysteric Sakura. Needless to say, the pink-haired girl was against her teammate going off on a mission the day after he was admitted into the hospital for severe chakra exhaustion, among other things. The kunoichi had slammed her hand onto the table and demanded the blonde not to go through with the mission. She had said that she was worried about Blonde and did not want him to be placed in such a dangerous situation, even if it meant helping Sasuke waking up. Realizing what his teammates' words had meant, a smile formed in the Jinchuriki's face, and he felt a little guilty at having dashed out on her. I hope Lee can calm her down, the boy commented as he closed his bag, still paying attention to the hall outside in case he heard his teammate approaching. The genin was making his way out of his apartment, when suddenly a searing pain shot through his entire body. Naruto had to scramble to place a hand on one of his desks to prevent himself from falling onto the floor. Panting, the Sharingan user tried to calm his body down as the pain started to recede. Finally regaining his composure, the blonde started to pick up whatever he had dropped when he sought support from the table. As he stood up, the Jinchuriki observed the black scroll he had just picked up. It was the Magenkyu Sharingan scroll that the old geezer had given him to learn how to use Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi all those months ago. When you obtain your third, I will come and find you. Sapphire eyes frowned at the memory of the older Uchiha's words. Opening the scroll, Naruto scanned through it. The text gave an explanation of both Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, depicted how chakra had to be controlled and distributed when performing the dojutsus, and warned about the drawbacks of long-term use of the jutsus. No matter how much the blonde read the scroll, there was no mention of a third dojutsu. Sighing in frustration, Naruto put the scroll away, deciding that it would be best to examine it more thoroughly some other time. Resuming his way out the apartment, the young man prepared for a long and consuming mission. Jiraiya stretched in his futon with a yawn. Shaking the drowsiness off, the legendary shinobi glanced at the unrolled mat next to him. So he stayed out all night again, he commented as he took out one of his notebooks and read the notes written on it. According to the text, Jiraiya and the brat had been out of Konoha on their mission for about 4 weeks now. Needless to say, they had not been successful so far. The Sannin scratched his head. What am I doing wrong? The man wondered. He and the boy had hit all the right places in all the towns they had visited, every casino, lottery stand, fancy restaurant, expensive shop, even a couple of arcades, but there was no trace of his former teammate. Sighing, Jiraiya continued to grimace. The only thing that they had been able to learn during their travels was that the blonde was exceptionally lucky at games of chance. 3 times already his departed student's son had won the jackpot in slot machines. The frustration of their fruitless search and the jealousy of the brat's good luck in casinos would have driven the Sannin to simply abandon his mission and hit the nearest brothel, had the legendary man not found a new source of entertainment. If the two-leaf nin had been on their mission for 4 weeks, then Naruto had been trying to learn the Rasengan for 3.5 weeks, and the key word was trying. After enduring 4 days of the blonde's constant nagging and pestering about the new jutsu he had promised him, Jiraiya had finally shown him the technique that Minato had developed. It came as a shock to the seasoned ninja when Naruto had effortlessly succeeded through the water balloon and rubber ball stages. The young Jinchuriki was making the jutsu that had cost the Konoha Yellow Flash 3 years of his life look easy. That was when Jiraiya introduced the spiky-haired boy to the 3rd stage of the jutsu, and the fun started. The white-haired man fondly remembered Minato's many attempts at forming the perfectly shaped chakra sphere, as well as the cuts, explosions, and collateral damage that resulted out of them. Jiraiya had never expected that he would be granted an encore to that show, but the last 3 weeks with Naruto had presented him a performance as magnificent as his former student had unwittingly given. For all the chakra control the young genin had, and the leaps and bounds that he had done toward mastering the jutsu, the young man simply could not form a sphere. What the Jinchuriki could do was create craters, cut himself all over, and sent his own body flying several feet in the air. It was a blast for old Jiraiya to see the brat struggle trying to learn the Rasengan. Chuckling to himself, Jiraiya picked up some of the bandages discarded all over the floor. It appeared that the Naruto's regenerative power were no match for the Rasengan. The boy was getting cut faster than he could heal himself, and temporarily leaving scars for the first time the Sharingan user's body. Watching the brat wrestle with his own bandages was quite an amusing sight. Throwing the dirty straps of cloth in the garbage, the Sannin moved towards the room's window where a glorious sunrise could be witnessed. Don't kill yourself, kid, the white-haired man softly said. I wouldn't be able to bear another loss, Jiraiya stated before starting to prepare for the day. Pants were the only thing that could be heard through the devastated field. Forcing his body to move, Naruto managed to crawl his way out of the sizable crater that he had created during his attempts. Damn it! The blonde swore. What the hell is wrong with this jutsu? He exclaimed as he held his right arm with his left hand. The Jinchuriki's right limb appeared as though it had gone against barrage of shuriken and lost. There were so many cuts running down the length of Naruto's arm that his regeneration abilities could not keep up. Wounds were healing at a much slower rate now, and there were a couple of scars been left behind. Lying on his back, the pair of sapphire eyes observed as yellow streaks broke through the darkness of night. Great, the blonde complained. I didn't even realize that I wasted the whole night. Naruto remembered when he first started learning the Rasengan. Bursting the water balloon and rubber ball had been easy enough. The boy simply had to send chakra down his arm and release from his palm. Inside those two sphere objects, the Sharingan user's chakra behaved just as it was supposed to, just as Jiraiya had instructed. But once the guides were taken away, the mere thought of shaping his outpouring chakra would cause the pseudo-Rasengan to blow up in Naruto's face. I just can't control my chakra, the spiky-haired boy shouted as he pushed his body off the ground and sat up. Shaping the chakra, it's impossible for me. Completely out of my control, he told himself as he clutched his right arm harder. It's not a matter of control, Naruto-kun. The blonde's eyes snapped open as memories started rushing into his mind. Sometimes, chakra can either be forced nor controlled. Instead, you have to let its flux continue, and merely nudge it the way you want it to go. Standing up, the Jinchuriki extended his right arm. For someone like you, it might be better to simply close your eyes and let your instincts take over. I have complete confidence in you, Naruto-kun. A pair of azure eyes closed, following the advice that the old geezer had given during the time they had spent training. Naruto forced his body to relax. His mind endeavored to push away all thoughts of failure, his experience with Uchiha Itachi, his inability to protect those he cared about. Instead, the blonde thought about the time he spent playing in the Sandame's office, eating ramen with Iruka-sensei, and those moments when he felt like he truly belonged in Team 7. With his mind in an unfamiliar yet pleasant peace, the genin started to gather chakra in the palm of his hand. He didn't try to force the chakra, he didn't attempt to bend it to his will, and he didn't bother to foolishly try to control it. He simply let it flow, trying to track the chakra's movements as he imagined a perfectly shaped Rasengan. The Jinchuriki could hear the leaves twirling around him, could smell the morning dew from the nearby trees, feel the soft breeze touching his skin, as well warm ray of the rising sun, and sensed the powerful mass of chakra he was holding. Slowly opening his eyes, the blonde glanced at the end of his extended arm. Sapphire eyes widened and an old, almost goofy, grin formed in Naruto's face at the sight of a perfectly spherical jutsu. His chakra spun and danced beautifully and vigorously in his hand, as a Rasengan. The grin soon ascended into a smile. I did it! The Sharingan user exclaimed happily, unable to take his eyes off the Rasengan. I did it! A moment later, young Shinobi went momentarily deaf as the accumulation of chakra burst in a massive explosion, creating an even bigger crater and sending the spiky-haired boy flying back. Hee hee! An odd laugh escaped Naruto as he found himself lying on the ground yet again. Ha ha ha! The blonde laughed, and he continued laughing until his side hurt and tears escaped his eyes. I did it! I did it! He repeated as he remembered his successful Rasengan. For those few seconds, I became stronger,